Welcome back, my beautiful people. Today we're going into step 5 of my 7-part series. Today is the meat and potatoes of a short-term rental business. We're going to be talking about operations and management of your business. What I'm going to focus on is more on leveraging technology to streamline your operations and help you be more efficient, provide a better guest experience, and thus optimize your overall business so that you can have more free time and not be a slave to the short-term rental business, because it can easily happen. I can tell you that when I first started in this business, I was literally a slave. I would wake up in the morning around 6 in the morning and I was on the phone, especially dealing with inquiries and current guests, I guess potential investors in the business, all the way up till like 11 o'clock at night. Did that for years until I finally realized, hey, number one, I gotta hire more people. And number two, I gotta include and incorporate technology into the business. Let's get right in. In my weekly review, I talked about the difference between a channel manager and a PMS system. I have a tendency to lean more towards using a property management system to operate your business. The more robust that system is, the better it's probably gonna be for you. But I caution you because sometimes you can either design your own PMS system or get into a PMS system that is super complicated to operate. We made that mistake. We hired a company to design a specific PMS system for us. It had all the bells and whistles. It was phenomenal, but whenever we had a turnover and we had to train someone in that system, it took too long. That's why we scrapped it and we went with something simple. And what we did was we teamed up and partnered with Hostfully, which is a PMS system. I find that system to be extremely simple, but has enough bells and whistles to it that allows me to operate the entire operation side of the house with that one system. There's a lot of stuff that you can integrate, like your QuickBooks. You can integrate a lot of other software to, if you need it, you can incorporate a lot of additional software to it. So it works great, why we used it. So let's talk about that and why a PMS system is important. Number one, when choosing that PMS system I just talked about, it needs to be able to integrate as you start to grow, because you may not need a lot of stuff that for example, that we currently have. You may not need that if you're still operating, I would say probably 10 properties or less. You don't need a lot of the stuff that we have, but it should be able to adapt as you grow, right? So implementing a robust system is going to be critical. In addition to that, make sure that whatever PMS system you are getting into, if money is an issue, then make sure that that system also provides you with a direct booking website. Because even though I'm not a fan of using a website that doesn't belong to you, because eventually you might have some issues with that, but if money is an issue, you got to have the ability to receive direct bookings. So your second best option is to have a PMS system that already has a direct booking website so that you don't have to create it. And then within that PMS system, it should allow you to incorporate AI. That's really, really important, and automate a lot of your tasks in terms of operations, right? For example, it should automate all your standard guest messages. It should automate your scheduling for your cleaners, automate your scheduling for your vendors. It should create financial reports for you. It should create invoices. It should create maintenance reports. All that should be part of your PMS system, and all that should not be done manually, right? So that side of the house, or the operations side of the house, is very important. The fiscal and the analytics side of the house, it should also track your performance, right? You should have a PMS system that gives you all the necessary KPIs that you need to analyze the health of your business. Also give you trends as to which properties are producing the most, which properties are producing the least, what trends in terms of the type of property do you have that are doing well, which ones are not, so that you can do a few things, right? You can adjust in terms of your marketing. You can also double down on operations stuff that you're currently doing that's working, and then eliminate stuff that isn't working. So I'll give you an example. A lot of people think that getting into the luxury short-term rental aspect is profitable. I can tell you that most of the time it is not profitable. The purchase or the buy or your entry point into whatever property it is what's going to determine, or it's going to have a big determining factor as to whether or not you're profitable. It does you no good to overpay for a property that has a cap in terms of revenue. So for example, a 3-2 that is 1,100 square feet in a high-end neighborhood is going to outproduce a 3-2 in that same neighborhood that's 5,000 square feet. The reason it's going to outperform it is because that 5,000 square foot property is going to have a higher operating cost than that 1,100 square foot property, but yet you're in the same neighborhood, you're providing the same amenities with the exception of square footage. Those are the kind of things you need to be taken into account, and your software should be telling you these KPIs, and so that you can properly analyze these things. So having that is extremely important. Also giving you that financial input, right? You should be generating financial report in terms of your revenue, your expenses, what your profitability margin or breakpoint is. Your system should be telling you that. Next is going to be that guest experience that I talked about. So within your PMS system, this is where AI is going to be very important, and your system should integrate with AI. Today, we use AI in our system exclusively in our customer service department, right? What AI does, if you're not familiar, it's going to know, like, your frequently asked questions, it's going to know everything about a specific property. So when a question or an inquiry comes in, it's going to get an immediate response from your AI. That is going to save you not only in terms of staffing, but if you're not aware, when someone sends an inquiry, they're going to send an inquiry to maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 3 properties at a time, and the first person that responds oftentimes gets that book. Just how it works. So incorporating AI is going to allow you to have a leg up over someone that doesn't. It takes a few minutes for them to receive the question, to interpret the question, and to answer that question, versus with AI, that's immediate. That question comes in and they get an immediate response. If it's a question that's outside of your current norm, AI is still going to respond. It's just going to respond with, we received your inquiry, give us a second to get back to, but at least you already started those lines of communication. As we know in business, just like in relationships, communication is key. Next thing is in terms of technology and your operation is making sure that you are using or trying to create a smart home versus or use as much as you can in terms of smart technology. Like for example, your locks. You shouldn't be using keys and you shouldn't be using these electronic lock boxes that you have to manually change the codes on. The keyless entry systems need to be robust. They should be generated automatically, right? You shouldn't be going in there and start generating these codes. And when a reservation comes in, these codes need to be generated and be implemented within that reservation and sent out once the reservation process is completed. Again, the idea here is speed, efficiency, and not having to have a human do a lot of the stuff that technology can handle. Again, it's going to save you money in staffing. It's going to make you much more efficient, and it's going to create a better guest experience because guests they're going to receive the stuff that they want when they want it. They're not sitting around waiting. The next thing your PMS system needs to be managing is going to be your maintenance. It should have something that you can implement in terms of your property care. Here's what I mean by property care. We'll talk about that first. A lot of times, for example, like our PMS system, it will tell us when we need to change the battery. For example, our smoke detectors or remote controls, we can set it up so it sends my maintenance team a reminder when these things need to take place. More importantly, it does that, sends reminders and maintenance notices for important stuff like AC. Most of my properties in hot weather areas like South Florida, like the Caribbean, like Cartagena, and when your AC goes out, oftentimes it's going to go out and at a time that's not ideal, and it's going to be like late at night when you have guests and it's super hot outside. By setting up notices to provide the necessary maintenance to make sure these ACs are operating optimally and are staying operational, it's going to save you money, it's going to save you time, and your system should be telling you this. Shouldn't be relying on calendars, on written calendars on somebody's wall. So having these maintenance alerts is going to be important. In addition to that is managing your vendors and your supplies. If you're having, for example, some management companies will be providing stuff like shampoo, soaps, toilet paper, paper towels, stuff to operate your short-term rental, and your system should be handling those contractors or those contracts with those vendors and doing the quality control control with those vendors, making sure that they get paid, making sure that they're supplying you when you need those supplies, and keeping up with the inventory so that you know and keeping track so that you know whether to either increase inventory or decrease inventory. Because the last thing you want is a warehouse full of toilet paper that's not being used, or a warehouse full of shampoo that's not being used. Your PMS system should be handling that as well. The next is going to be and this kind of touches on the finance part of it, but in finance, you should have in your PMS system, there should be a separate item for bookkeeping, and then within that bookkeeping, there should be something for your accounting. Your bookkeeper is just going to keep that stuff integrated and up to date, and it's inputting the necessary information that you need for your bookkeeping, but it should also integrate with your accountant so that your accountant has a bird's eye view or instant information so that they can do their job without having to ask you for documents like your bank statements, your credit card statements, your revenue, etc. Your system should be set up and integrated with your accountant and your bookkeeping. Next is this is a big one in terms of marketing and getting your properties full and your occupancy rates high. And that is making sure that you have a good, robust CRM system. Your CRM system is going to keep track of your guests, your profiles, and then you can, with that information, create a marketing plan that can be automated through your system. I can't express how important a very good CRM is for your business, because this is where you're going to start marketing and get people to come back to your property, especially if they're good guests, people that gave you good reviews. You want to stay on top of them, and the only way you're going to do that is through a CRM system. Again, to save time, it should be automated. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is compliance and security measures. Your PMS system should have some type of data protection, and there should be some safety standards in place within that PMS system so that you don't have any data breaches. In today's day and age, everybody's getting hacked. So this part may be difficult for you. It's because it can get very expensive, but at the bare minimum, your PMS system should have some kind of data protection in place that's not going to cost you any extra money. And I can tell you there's a lot of PMS systems out there that are inexpensive and don't have this, and you don't want that. But there are some that are, in terms of cost, medium, it's moderate cost. It's not super expensive. They have top-notch data protection, and I highly recommend that's one of the things you consider before signing on with a PMS system. Same thing applies with any type of cybersecurity or physical security. That should be in place. If you don't know anything about that, when you're interviewing these companies, or companies that are trying to get your business, ask a lot of questions about their compliance, regulatory compliance, and their cybersecurity, and what type of data protection they're going to give you. Ask those questions. The more questions you ask, the more you're going to learn, and it'll help you determine whether or not you should go with that particular PMS system or not. Hope this information was useful. If it was, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We still have 2 more videos as it relates to this series. Hit that notification bell if you haven't done so you don't miss when these videos are released. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.